Everyone, Jen here, and today we're going to be making the Monogram Flag Fob Octagon. That's quite the mouthful. We have several of these designs on the website in different shapes. They are just a great accoutrement for your zipper bags. The font we are using is by Rivermill Embroidery, and it's the Circle Monogram Small. It comes in 1 inch and I believe 3/4 inch. It's my go-to for small monograms. We are also using the Suede Like by My Punk Embroidery and the coordinating fabric to the last video we did, which is rifle paper. So pull up the design in your machine. There is no PDF, I believe, for these fobs. So let's go over what we need. All right, so you're going to start with 2 pieces of ultra or Suede Like. So you see here, cut to roughly 1 inch larger than your file size. You're also going to need a piece of scrap fabric and perfect applique or heat and bond light. So you're going to apply this to your fabric, and this is basically an adhesive to keep it nice and crisp, and you can iron it after we're all done and it will essentially glue it to your suede. It also helps with trimming your fabric around the applique. So you can see I use perfect applique. I applied it according to the package directions. All right, so we use tearaway for these projects. Your first step is going to be the full placement step. So tearaway, step 1, full placement. Then you're going to tape down your first piece of vinyl. And you're going to run step 2, which is the tack down for the center design. So whatever shape that might be. Obviously, we're using the octagon. You're going to place your fabric right side up, covering all of your placement lines. You can see here, I'm trying to decide which way I like the flowers to go. So step 3 is going to tack your fabric into place. And then you're going to go ahead and trim around the edges of your applique. Again, the heat and bond or the perfect applique helps get a nice crisp line for your trimmings. You can see here, right? You're going to return it to your machine and you're going to run the satin stitching around your design. All right, once the satin stitching is done, it's going to run step 4, which is the decorative stitch on top of your satin. So if you'd like to change up the colors of your thread, that's a good time to do that. Now I went ahead and set up my monogram in my software pre-design loading. So the next step is one that I added myself. The actual KeyFob only has 5 steps. So if you're going to add your monogram or letter or whatever you're going to add it before the final tack down, which is step 5. All right, once your monogram is done, you're going to remove the hoop and turn it to the back side. And you're going to cover up all of your placement stitching with your second piece of vinyl. Again, we're using Suede Like from My Punk Embroidery. Make sure it's taped really well. You're going to flip it back over and return it to your machine. And you're going to go ahead and run the final tack down of your KeyFob. All right, once you're all finished, you're going to go ahead and remove your design from the hoop and you're going to pull out all the tearaway from your project. I am using a pre-cut sheet from All Stitch in weight 15. It's their tearaway. I have a ton of pre-cuts that I'm trying to get rid of, and so I use them on all these small projects. So make sure you get into all the little edges, pull out all of your stabilizer. You can use cutaway, but again, you might see it if you use cutaway, so I prefer tearaway on these designs. Next up, we're going to go ahead and trim the design. I am using the serrated scissors by Kai. Kai is by far my go-to scissor manufacturer. They're excellent, and everybody always asks me which pinking shears I use, and that is Kai. Hands down, they go through everything. I will link them below, so if you're looking for new pinking shears. So you're going to trim your KeyFob to about a 1/16 to 1/8 seam allowance. You kind of just get used to doing this. The width of the KeyFob hardware is very specific, obviously, so you need to make sure you size these correctly to fit in your KeyFob hardware. Okay, so I'm using 1 1/4 inch. So you have a ring, a lobster clasp, and the KeyFob hardware. So you're going to use a staple remover to open up your hardware so you can loop everything together. So you want to put the lobster clasp on and then the actual key fob hardware. And then if you don't already, you're going to want to make sure you have a tool to apply the hardware. You can see it's the red handle right there. You place the key fob hardware, then you line up your key fob into your hardware and you squeeze. I do a light squeeze, make sure it's centered and lined up correctly, and then once it is, then I give it a final squeeze. Then when you're all done, you just attach it to your bag as shown. So pretty.